Yep.
All right. Let me see. Share that. All right. Okay. I think we're good. So let me move this around a little bit. There you go. All right. So welcome. Today is about breaking cycles of silence and building an identity rooted in emotional power. So by the end of this presentation, you'll learn some practical skills to interrupt the shutdown in the moment and a path to permanently unwire these beliefs that we kind of grown up with or that's behind some of the emotions. My name is Tracy Long. I am a licensed counselor in Texas. I am a national board certified counselor and I'm a board certified telemental health counselor. So I'm just really happy that you're here today. So, what will you get? You'll leave again with a free tool and clarity on next steps if you're serious about ending the cycle for those for yourself and then for those that you love. Just kind of understanding or figuring out the truth behind this emotional armor and its hidden cost. So, who's this for? If you ever felt strength to mean silence, then you're in the right place, which a lot of us have experienced. So, men who shut down instead of speaking up, fathers who want to lead with heart, not fear, professionals who need emotional clarity to perform and connect, and then anyone that doesn't want to do it alone anymore. So, of course, we have the chat available so you can respond in there. And I think I should be able to answer back while I'm recording. I'm not 100% sure. We're going to do a short exercise. Obviously, the camera doesn't have to be on. And of course, for folks that are watching this after the fact, and then there'll be like an application link for another program. And then, of course, I'll have Q&A for anyone that has any questions. So, again, I am the founder and CEO of Shades of Resilience Counseling. I'm also the founder and CEO of Moody Mindfulness for Resilient Shades, which is a coaching and wellness travel program. So, my journey has been challenging despite having a comfortable life as far as upbringing. Trauma was prevalent in my community where I grew up. Sometimes I tell people I have a score of 5, meaning the level of adversity childhood experiences that I had puts me at a higher level of having issues in adulthood. So in my community, there was a lot of silence and isolation. We didn't talk about our issues or our problems. So that's pretty much what I learned to do. So in 2011, my father was diagnosed with stage 4 multiple myeloma cancer, and I lost him 2 days after my birthday. My father was my best friend. I was a daddy's girl by every mean of the definition. So I was devastated. So I went into this negative place. I will say I got to a really low place, and people would see me. I was still functioning, but not at the level that I knew I should be functioning at. But people would say, "Oh, you're strong," but again, inside, I knew I was just drowning, which made it difficult to be the mother that I needed and I wanted to be to my 2 sons. Again, because therapy wasn't something that we did. I guess a lot of times we say therapy isn't for us, it's for other people. So reaching out for therapy was challenging, but I did. And it was a turning point for me, even though my first experience was not a pleasant experience. The therapist that I got did not look like me. When I went there, it was just a cold and disconnected experience, and it just made me feel even more isolated than ever. However, finding this Black therapist changed everything. That's when my healing began. And for the first time, I felt seen and heard and understood. And quite honestly, she was kind of I guess, the springboard for me even going into the field because I was just like, man, the way I feel, I want to be able to give that gift to somebody else, at least people of color. So it was in that process that I realized the solution wasn't about being strong, right? That word now even makes me feel some kind of way because being strong all the time is exhausting. So instead of this being strong, it were these two other things. First, a clear framework for naming and understanding emotions. Again, like I said, growing up, we didn't really communicate our feelings. So a lot of times I didn't have the words for my feelings or my emotions, or we're told, don't cry for that, quit whining, etc. So learning to be able to name my emotions was huge. And then it was the process, right? The process of undoing these generational beliefs that taught me vulnerability was weakness. I didn't even know it was generational trauma when I went until I met with her and she kind of explained it to me, because I just thought it was everybody was experiencing it, and that was just part of life. So launching Shades of Resilience Counseling and eventually the Resilient Man Blueprint, it wasn't really just about the career move. It was about a commitment to Black men who too often are siloed in their struggles. And I say that because I look at the men in my life, my father, like I said, I was a daddy's girl, and my two adult sons. And I see the unique weight that Black men carry. I see the pressure to provide, to protect, and to always remain stoic in a world that rarely offers softness or a place to just be without having to wear these masks. So that's why I created the Resilient Man Breakthrough Blueprint, and how to finally break these generational cycles of silence and claim the emotional power. Just to kind of, moving forward to just creating a legacy. So, of course, I changed the name. Client that I had, we'll call him James, is kind of the model that this systemic approach that I used helped to transform a lot of the guilt he was experiencing and a lot of the shame that he was experiencing. It helped him change that into compassion and freeing himself from this and allowing him to let go of a lot of resentment that he was carrying. So by enhancing his emotional intelligence, increasing these communication skills, he was able to receive a promotion, improved his relationships with his mom and his sons and his siblings. And this transformation, it's just that's what I'm talking about today, is that he was able to do it, and a lot of the other clients, but his story stood out to me because it was just so significant a change, all the things that started happening in his life. So here, I take a pause, right, and ask this question, to be honest with yourself. Whoever's watching this video, you take the time and be honest and ask that question: where do you withdraw or avoid or numb instead of leaning in? Like, where do you shut down, and what conversations they're difficult, or you have something to say, but you feel like you're not going to be heard anyways, so you shut down. Um, so again, if it was a group, I would want to know. You can just put it in the chat and let me know if this is something that you've experienced or not.
And I could just let you know, I mean, it's something that I've had to work on.
Hmm.
Now that I'm at this point of healing,
Hmm.
then it looks different. I used to avoid a lot of conversations because I found that I had this thing called approval addiction. And
Oh.
so I probably masked more than I thought that I
Hmm.
did, because I always wanted to make sure that I didn't upset anyone. And so, I overly apologized. I'm
Hmm.
still working on the apologetics. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm sorry, oh my bad. I'm like, what you apologizing for? So, I
Hmm.
think there was a lot of times that I probably refrained from even saying or doing certain things just because I just didn't want to upset anybody, because I was already doing enough to upset them by going through my own mental health
Mm.
struggles. So,
Oh, okay. Yep.
yes,
Nope,
yes.
that totally makes sense. I completely understand you there, and that's exactly what we're doing here. And it's interesting because I've heard that from other men. It's like, well, I just rather save everybody from, I don't want to get anybody upset, or I'm already causing some ripples in the family or what have you, or even in their obviously in their personal relationships or romantic relationships or even friendships. So when we talk about it, you kind of just touched on it. The cost of the silence, right? Is when we choose to be silent, we're not necessarily protecting those relationships. We're starving them, right? So when we're like, oh, okay, I'm not going to say anything, you miss out on that ability to connect. And that emotional disconnect builds up after time, right? It builds more resistance. And then it also, sometimes you just don't say anything, you don't say anything, and then it builds up and then there's an explosion as far as just lashing out. And that definitely doesn't help the experience at all. So, I talk about this as far as examples of that when you're not heard or when you feel like you're being ignored or your feelings are, you're frustrated or feel like you're being neglected. A lot of people usually go out and they seek immediate relief, right? Because they just don't want to feel whatever that is. And of course, that just creates more problems, but it's not an excuse to go do these things. It's just a pattern that needs to be interrupted. And that's kind of where, you know, the just being able to explain that and being able to assist men through just interrupting this pattern. So I kind of talk about the lie exposed, right? And here it is. I mean, I really love this picture when I was able to create it. Is this emotional armor that you wear to protect the family again is isolating you from it. Just trying to be strong and not showing anything is really creating more of a distance. So this unspoken lie, I call it the suppressed strong man because again these feelings are being suppressed and you're having to always be strong all the time. You believe that you have to absorb the pain and never show weakness, but that belief is just a cycle, and that cycle is what often keeps men stuck. Based on the experiences and the conversations that I've had with a lot of men, that's what's keeping them stuck. And with that, the real price tag, the cost of inaction and not doing anything about it is a lot higher emotionally, relationally, financially, compared to just investing in your health or your mental health. So we have to break that belief that holds this all together. Again, a lot of the men, some of the recurring patterns that I'm hearing is this communication breakdown, and a lot of, unfortunately, are divorced or separated as a result of just not being able to communicate to ask for what they want and need in relationships. And even on the other side for women as well. I've been that one on the other side and know how I contributed or not contributed to the experiences that we were having. So it's both needing to learn how to communicate effectively or in a healthy way for change to happen. So the truth, right? Vulnerability, again, is misconstrued as weakness. I can't count the number of times, including some men in my life, or that I hate that word vulnerability. I don't want to be, but that word just it doesn't work for me. But vulnerability, it sounds cliche that it's courage, but at the same time, a little bit of vulnerability is how you make connections, right? There's a thing between oversharing and not sharing enough, but there has to be some level of vulnerability for you to be able to connect with others, despite the fears. And with vulnerability also being strength, once you can tap into those emotions, you can gain some clarity and be able to connect. And then, of course, being able to tap into those emotions and be able to manage them definitely helps with your leadership ability, with being seen and knowing how to show up in spaces that may not necessarily be for you, but you'll know how to, I guess the best way to say is work through them. So I'll just pause here. This is a question. It's almost like the other question, right? Just a reflection to stop and think, where do you shut down? Just so you can kind of make the connection. Where's that first place that you shut down? Is it at work? Is it at home? Is it at family? I don't know if you feel comfortable in sharing, when you wanted to keep the peace, if it was in certain spaces or it was just across the board.
Yeah, I'd say probably at home. And I'd say for me, it was probably due to my alcoholism. Uh,
Mm,
because I did so much damage with drinking until therefore when certain things may be impacting me emotionally, I may not even express it, or I may express it the wrong way. And so I may tend to shut down. So
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, like I said, a lot of it had to do with, you know, feelings of guilt.
Ah, okay.
And I've already done enough, and if I
Hmm.
say something, do I even have a right to say something based
Oh.
on other behaviors? And
Hmm.
so, so yeah, I'd say probably definitely at home.
Okay. And then you mentioned that the emotion that was tied to it was just some of that guilt.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, the guilt that was attached to it, which,
Yeah,
I
and then
guess,
I
yeah.
think to one of the points you were saying was, and then when it was time to say something, it would come out the wrong way or come out more of like a emotional, more emotional versus expressing my emotions, if I say it that way.
Yes, I understand what you're saying. I totally get it because again, that's what I've heard and explaining. It's like, well, I meant what I said, but I didn't mean to say it that way. And then usually
Mhm.
when it's delivered, then it's not received the way that we would have hoped. But yeah, when the emotions get really strong, it does cause us to not be able to communicate as clearly. So yeah, that totally makes sense. So, kind of looking at it from a place of, yes, the other things are a lie as far as, vulnerability and just some of the other things. I always talk about, what's the story and then what's the truth, because we can tell ourselves stories based on whatever it is that we believe, but then that shutting down is not helping the situation. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I want to express because I've heard it so many times. It's just like, well, I just won't say anything at all. And you know, a, as a woman, or what I've heard from women is like, well, he's not saying anything. He's not even responding. He acting like he's not going to care. But sometimes it's either you don't know what to say, or out of fear of you saying something and it not being received, or you get shut down. And that's just a really tough place to be in. But being able to find the words to communicate it is how we interrupt that pattern and break it up a little bit. So what I like to do, I call it just this 1 minute, so 1 minute change, just to cool down, again, to disrupt in the moment. Where it's so easy to just take a pause and like, oh, let me pause and think, what am I experiencing and what do I want to the response or the reaction? How do I want it received? So I know it's just us, so um, but for the people that would be watching this later, is just, breathe. A lot of the men I usually work with, men that's 30 and over, and it's just like, oh my gosh, but I'm already set. Can I really, am I behind? How am I gonna fix this, or what have you? So I usually say, just, there's no failing, there's no wrong way. It's just only trying. And that's what I see is like, I just want to try to do different. And the awareness and trying is the hardest part. And once you can get over that, then anything is possible. The goal is just to notice and not be perfect. So what is the
I'm
1 minute? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Now, I was just gonna say I'm laughing because I have a kid superpower journal, and today the learning on the journal for day two, and my son just did it, was talking about breathing. So that's why when
Hmm.
you were saying to breathe, that's why I laughed. It wasn't laughing at you. I want to clarify, because it's like we were just talking about breathing, and it's so key. So yeah, thank you for sharing that part. That's always good to have those confirmations and reaffirmations as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, we don't realize how strong our breath is, like just really stopping. And for me, that's what it was. Like, I can't tell you how many times I just pause, like, and it just grounds you. I'm so happy he's learning that because, again, we just don't know how powerful and the difference that just taking time to take a deep breath can help ground us. The change is we this I call this the anchor in the storm. And it's just this simple, again, this micro step to take to interrupt is the difference between where I'm at and where I want to go, is how I call it. It helps to interrupt that urge to shut down or to act on impulse or act out, like we were talking before. So the first step is, again, it's just to pause and breathe, to take a deep breath, slow, and then to create this space. And it doesn't have to be long before reacting. There's only 3 steps. And then is naming what you feel. to really stop and ask, what am I feeling right now? And I'm going to take it even a step further, because we think of it feeling as far as these emotions, but I like to remind folks, or what I tell my clients is to, what am I feeling in my body? Because our body tells us, we'll feel the response in our body before it even connects to our brain. So if we can even feel whatever that experience is in their body, you'll be able to address it just as the same as if you were able to have the words, because it takes time to learn these words. And it's without judgment, right? Anger, sadness, overwhelm, numb, beating in my chest, my stomach is kind of nauseous, I got a headache. Those are still things that you can connect to be able to say, okay, wait a minute, I feel like I might explode. When I'm anxious, it's in my chest. So when I start feeling it in my chest, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. That's when I stop, and that's when I'm able to find, what is that word? What is that thing? What do I need right now? Because again, naming it and attaching it to the feeling is how you're able to take control over it. And language is leadership. Once you can name it, then you're able to navigate what to do next. And then, like I asked you before, is like we have to trace, what was it? A lot of times people think, oh, triggers are negative, but triggers tell us something. It will help us be more aware of what's that thing that sets us off, so that we can, when we experience it, we're able to, oh, that is that thing. I need to apply this skill. So I always ask people, what do you think happened? Sometimes it's the same things, like, oh, I was here and this happened and it upset me or it pissed me off. Okay, so now you know that that's that thing. How do you maneuver that when it comes up, so that you can do something differently, which is walk away or talk about it. But again, we have to know what our triggers are in order to implement strategies or skills, and then to avoid shutting down. So I like to, kind of talk about that. So again, if it was a group of us, I usually I would take this time. So whoever's watching the recording after, you'd go through those steps on your own, where you would just take the deep breath, kind of think of something that, not too disturbing, something that was mildly annoying. And then I usually tell people, like, somebody cutting you off or whatever, how did that make you feel? Just thinking about that thing. And then thinking about, okay, well, what happened right before that really got you upset about it? Just so they can get an idea of how that works, so that they can apply it on their own, wherever, at home, at work, whenever you feel triggered. So let me pause. I feel like I'm talking really fast, because I really do talk fast. But let me slow down. Any questions, Kenneth? Anything that I'm missing? Anything you want to add?
No, this is good. I'm loving the alignment here. And yeah. It will talk, but this is good. I mean, because that's, you know, I truly believe in refreshing and refilling and not giving until my cup is overflowing. And
Mm-hmm.
even as I did a peer group yesterday and today, one of the things
Mm-hmm.
that I always mention is I'm either leading or even in other groups about 2 to 3 times a week.
Oh,
These
wow.
sorts of situations. I mean, getting on the King's Corner Black Men Hill calls, every week I
Oh,
send out a list of safe spaces for Black men to tap into either live or virtually. And so,
nice.
and we'll talk more about it, but this is truly in divine alignment. So yeah, I hope that everyone else that's listening is, truly receiving something from it as well, because this is truly healing. So thank you.
No, yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Because it helps me, right? Because I'm like, well, I'm a female. I don't know what it's like to be a man, but I do know what it's like to. I've done the work. I've been around folks, so it just really helps to hear that from another Black man, that it makes sense. So the tool, that's just 60 seconds, right? So that tool isn't about, fixing everything in the moment. It's about noticing the cycles of when it begins. And that's all it's designed for, is to stop in that moment, right? The real healing starts when we are able to rewire and do this identity shift. which doing that, the identity shift is included in these beliefs, the old beliefs, the generational, like generational curses, or whatever you want to call them, the generational traumas that we've experienced, and being able to, yeah, definitely rewire or deprogram in some cases is how you're able to heal and be able to move forward. So to heal the cause, we have to have a system to do it. So that anchor, that 60-second anchor versus this virtual coaching program that I created, it's just the what what will be the next thing to end this cycle. Let me just say it that way. Both are necessary, but then one is foundational, right? Because it's not about these quick fixes. It's about, again, like legacy and lifetime changes is my goal. So we're back to that identity shift, right? Because the reasons that some of these emotions like anger or guilt or shame keeps popping up is because we're still operating from this place of, I can't count the number of times, and I've said it myself, is like, well, it did shape me and mold me. I didn't turn out, I turned out okay, but just because that's been the experience, is that really true? Because sometimes, like, well, how do we know we turned out okay? What's the measure? Is it success? Is it, because that may not be a fair assessment. And then, well, this is who I am, and um how are people going to think of me? Am I going to be able to perform as well at my job? Things like that. But we need to work on shifting that statement. And that's how I designed the Resilient Man Blueprint. It's a 12-week group coaching program. It's virtual. And the program it's the moment to stop settling for this suppressed strong man identity, and it's where you decide or dedicate time to unwiring and breaking these generational beliefs, acknowledging those hardships were not normal. A lot of times, again, we're like, oh, well, that was normal. It was normal in our community. It might have been normal in our home, but that did not make it right. Those were adversities, adverse childhood experiences that are trauma, right? So we have to heal those in order to have healthy relationships with ourselves, healthy relationships with others, and to perform well in our jobs. And not to mention, I don't know why I'm even skipping that, is to be the best parent we can be. Like for our kids, if we can break the generational cycles before, then we're able to stop that cycle and be able to teach our kids different than what we learned. So for people that participate in the Resilient Man Blueprint, it the commitment for men, it allows you to step into this heart-led king, is what I call it. A man whose strength comes from emotional clarity, not silence, and who finally breaks that cycles. And I said, I said for sons when I was thinking about it, but it's for sons and daughters. And I don't even know how I would miss that, because again, I was a daddy's girl and I learned a lot of stuff from my dad, but there's also some cycles I'm breaking as a mom for my sons, and then for my sons for my grandchildren. So it's that legacy, and something, it's a ripple effect. Why I even do this work is, it's not about me, it's about the generations and the communities and the people after me, that this is all about, is being able to change that trajectory. So, back to what the blueprint solves. We go back to, we're mistaking, unfortunately, this unhealed trauma for normal life. And that's where it has to change. So in week 5, and I only chose these 2 weeks because it's just the ones that kind of stand out a little bit. There's so much more that we do. But in those weeks, we rewire the beliefs. We have to understand or uncover, well, what is that belief? What's at the core? Where did that come from? To begin to start identifying as trauma, and being able to knock, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing, and oh, I didn't realize that that's how it was impacting my relationship. That's really that's really the aha eye openers. Like, oh, I thought everything was okay, but then if you see these patterns, then it's like, okay, wait a minute, I'm doing this, is happening here, this is happening there. Then that means, more than likely it's a pattern that you learned, and we're able to break patterns. And then in week 7, That's where we learn the tools, master communication. I have this thing that we call the bridge technique. I mean, communication is everything. And I think we don't, I don't know, maybe we don't give enough credit or power to communication, but communication can change everything. A whole person's life, your relationships, your job, being able to perform is just being able to clearly communicate, effectively communicate, establish boundaries. It's just so, it makes life so much easier. I call it, people don't like boundaries, but at the same time, it's a clear understanding. That way you're teaching people how to treat you, and vice versa. And once they know that, then it makes the relationship workable, or not, because you can weed people out too if they continue to not communicate well with you, or they continue to violate the boundaries that you have established with them. So this is just a quick snapshot of what that 12 weeks look like. Again, it's a virtual group coaching program. Yes, I'm licensed in Texas, but this program is, because it is coaching, there's some things that we talk about. It's not a deep dive into mental health. We don't tap into the clinical stuff because, again, well, for me, anyways, it's not about the labels and the diagnoses. It's about the symptoms. What are you feeling? What are you experiencing? What is life looking like? And then what will life look, how will life look different? How will you act different? So that's what I focus on. So, phase one is healing the past, and then we transform the present, and then we're able to thrive in the future. So that's kind of how we follow. So it's 4, 4, and 4 is what makes up the 12 week. And it just helps with just an internal clarity, and then the external skills that you can use, and you just be able to repeat it, and it'll continue. It takes all the guesswork out of it, and it's basically step by step. The outcomes that you can expect from this is it's sustainable. I guess, like I talked about before, because a lot of times there's so many different things going on. We got life coaches, and we got relationship coaches, and mindfulness meditation coaches, right? And we just think about, okay, these things that we're trying, is it a quick fix? Is it just something that, or is this something that it's a lifelong, I don't know if you want to call it maybe even a lifestyle change, but it's something that's sustainable, and I can use it over and over and over again. And it's not just oh, I'm trying this for this to make this person happy, or I'm trying it for the, if we can't be our authentic self, it's not gonna work. It's not sustainable. It's gonna break down at some point. So the outcomes with the Resilient Man Blueprint is, again, that emotional clarity under pressure, being able to tap into the emotions, a reliable way to repair conflict, respect at work without sacrificing home, the deeper connection with your children and your partner, and then just the self trust, and just being able to trust yourself that, oh, okay, I am doing something different based on XYZ. I like to be able to have something tangible, something measurable for people to see, oh, yeah, things have really changed because I can point to this thing. And that's how you set the new standard for your legacy. A lot of people like, well, I'll do it later. Why not now? The longer the silence, the deeper the grooves. Like, you keep holding on or dragging it out, it's just going to get deeper and deeper. And momentum is built, it's not found. So you have to, it takes a long time for the grooves to get deep. Then you have to build this momentum so that you can make the change. So you can be the last link in the chain or the first bridge. And that's why I talk about, like, my kids and then my grandkids. It has to stop somewhere. So when you stop it, then again, you're opening up the bridge for everybody else after. And then the cycle starts with just this one decision. And after that, it's just compounding. So what is it, right? I kind of talk about it a little bit. How this works is it's securing a spot, right? So I share all of this, and then I kind of explain what the program is and how it works. So for the people that are watch this recording after, if they feel like it resonates with them, going heart led king, or then you have the opportunity to become a founding member of the Resilient Man Blueprint. The Resilient Man Blueprint is a 12-week program. Like I said, it's online. The value is this $39.97 because it's a deep dive into this 12 weeks. And there's also a face-to-face component. And honestly, $39.97, when you think of it, that's the fraction of a cost of emotional isolation or divorce. I have heard that in some of the experiences, like, okay, now you got to go find some, you're paying for maybe the house that your mortgage, and then now you have to go pay for an apartment somewhere else. So it can just really, it can add up really, really fast. But because this is the first cohort, whoever joins as a founding member gets $1,000 off for an exchange of being able to provide feedback and reviews for, yeah, for me of the program. Because again, I don't know what works until someone tells me it either works or it doesn't, and then we tweak it along the way. And there are definitely payment plans for this, for the program. So as I talk about the Resilient Man Blueprint, it is a very intimate experience, and I make it small to be able to offer the best support. This just is not just like this online coaching program where it's like, okay, here, go do this self-paced thing. No, we really check in. And the reason why I did it as a group is for accountability. There's something powerful in groups where where you're able to identify with somebody. Your experiences may not be the same, but when you can relate, then you can share these experiences. It takes away, oh, I'm not the only one. And then you're able to kind of communicate and offer feedback. So the window is short on purpose to be able to take advantage of the founding member spots. So at the end of this, there will be a link. It'll be 48 hours. And then after that, it changes to the regular price. So how do you claim the spot? Obviously, you'll fill out the application, and then that locks in the discount. And then I make sure, there's a 30, 45-minute consultation, because it's not about making money or taking people's money. That's not the business that I'm in. I know the value of the program. So when I do the consultation, I want to make sure that this is the best fit for the goals that you're trying to achieve. So that's why we have this free consultation to make sure I'm the right fit. And again, we have to make sure that at the end of this, you have achieved the goals or the changes that make sense to you. That's what matters. So once confirmed, you'll receive the secure payment link. And like I said, there's so many different payment plans to make it affordable where you're able to spread that out. So you can, choose whatever works best. And then once that's complete, then we begin working on unwiring these old generational beliefs that are no longer serving us. So again, what will you get as a founding member? You help me and men after that by refining this experience while getting premium access and support. You'll be offering, it's going to shape the program. And I look at this as the work that I do. Again, it's not about me, it's a movement. I want this to be able to change lives for years to come. So people, you'll have access to the replays, because I understand people are busy. There's self-guided materials, but we also meet like live, maybe not in person because everybody is all over the place, but we will meet as a group. I will be there meeting with everyone as a group. And even if they can't make the group, we'll record that and you still have access to it. And then there's a free Facebook group that I have that you're able to join and get additional support. And then there's some other resources that I've included. I just didn't even list it all here. We have the Voxer communication where you're able to communicate with me in between if you need something. So again, it's not one of those, oh my gosh, it's this cost and I'm just going to be doing it on my own. It's very intimate and intentional with everyone's time so that you can continue to work the program on a time that works for you, but then you also get the support you need and the time that works for you. So just to recap, right? The lie, strength equals silence. The truth, vulnerability equals courage. The tool is this 1 minute anchor that we used here. But the path is this identity shift that's so significant to become that heart-led king that I've heard men want to be for them, again, for themselves, for their families, and for their children. So I like to just review it again because clarity is what drives change. And then the move. So you just apply within the next 48 hours to receive the discount and just secure one of those 3 to 5 spots that are available. We talked about the cost of inaction. So I say the 3 to 5 spots. That's not how large the group will be. The group it's a rolling enrollment, but the discount is only available for the first 3 to 5 members. So if money is a concern, again, I look at, the silence could cost. Because I've heard it. I've heard the story. I hear the theme. The distance at home, the stalled relationships, stalled leadership, and then this burnout, of course. So this one-time investment is compounding. It's like a return on your investment that you is just probably the best return on your investment that you can get. It's an asset to use for your life. And then of course time, right? I understand folks are busy, they got families, they got kids, they got work. So it's designed for busy schedules. And that's why there's the self-guided modules and the life support. The live support will be once a week, most likely on a Friday. But then again, the replays will be available. The modules are concise and high impact lessons that you can again do at whatever time works best. So it's the skill, it's not these long lectures because nobody wants to sit and watch a lecture of me speaking, which I would be there's part of the course or the modules where I would be speaking, but who wants to listen to that the whole time? It'd be best to just, okay, I'm hearing it and now I can go apply the skills to the homework that's provided, the practical skills that you need to practice. Because there's skills that you'll need to practice and present it to the group and be able to, talk about it as well. Because what's the point in going through a program if you're not really implementing it and coming back, oh, that's not working, or it worked really well, and then we'd be able to continue that. Of course, is partner resistance, right? You have to go talk to your significant other and, shared funds or what have you. You're able to assist with that because it's normal. I mean, that the partner like, oh my gosh, what are you spending that for? But we'll equip the man with the language to be able to explain it. We call it again this bridge technique to bring the partner on board so that they can understand how significant it is and how it'll benefit both of them. Because again, you want to make a decision that works best for y'all, but sometimes it's hard to explain it. So we would help you with that. For people that are watching this on a recording, if your gut is telling you yes, then you trust it. Again, I'll go back to feeling in the body and then be able to apply and begin the turning point. So the founding member investment is there, the 5 spots, it'll be open for 48 hours. There's the link on this form. And then you just book the consultation and we'll talk about seeing if this is a good match or a good fit. So thank you. And the next steps is you don't have to carry this alone. And I say it all the time because there's so many people, or again, men that I've worked with, is like, they're suffering in silence, and it shouldn't have to be that way. And that's, we need these spaces to be able to heal. We can't heal on our own. So if there's any questions, and I know Kenneth will be talking offline outside of this, but I don't know if you have anything to say that that will help this recording. Other than that, I'll show folks how to contact me, and then we'll talk offline.
Yeah, no, like I said, I just want to, just say that the content from what I've seen looks amazing. It definitely looks like some of the tools and resources that we as men definitely have to focus on. Being in men's spaces and understanding, like you said, earlier, overstanding, as I like to say,
Overstanding.
that earlier that you know coming into the spaces, I've realized too that some men do need the relatability of having a female therapist.
Mm,
Everybody doesn't always want a male, and I think that's sometimes what's assumed, which could also be an imposter block for many of us at different times. So I
mm-hmm.
would say that based on the content and different spaces that I've been in, I mean, this is definitely can be a key asset and a kickstart to a new mental health healing journey. So,
Mm,
hey,
thank you.
everything looks amazing so far. So, yeah, thank you for sharing this, and thank you for the opportunity. For all of us to hey, be able to at least witness and see and experience the amazing work that you're doing. So, thank you,
Oh,
sincere
thank
gratitude.
you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'm really happy you're here. I'm really glad that you're able to add your thoughts on this. So again, thank you. It's invaluable. This is how folks can reach me: my Facebook, my Instagram, my YouTube. But I didn't add on here the Resilient Man The private Facebook group is a free private Facebook group. But again, reaching out to me on these other platforms, I definitely would be able to communicate that. And I guess the things that I didn't include here to maybe get a better understanding of who I am, I offer a free group on the first and third Thursdays of the month. It's called Real Men Talk, a safe space for Black men. And then I just started, I guess I call it a weekly lunchtime kind of de-stressing, just for men to be able to pop in and vent a little bit before they go back to work. It's just Thursdays, just to be able to have that space. It's just really important to me, or what I feel my purpose is just to create these spaces. Whatever happens in this space is not up to me. I just want spaces to be created for men to just be, and whatever that means and whatever that looks like. So my contact information, again, my website, and then just being able to reach out to me directly is my email and my phone number. And I do respond quickly. So you won't get ghosted. So again, thank you for your time and just interest in even the curiosity of what is this? What is she offering? What is she going to talk about? Because I really appreciate that. All righty.